My name's Iain Griffiths, and I am one of the co-founders of the Trash Collective that owns a number of brands, including Trash Tiki.
So I'm Kelsey Ramage. We started Trash Tiki 2 years ago to kind of look at the waste that was being produced in bars, the food waste side of things. We took the brand on tour for about 10 months to a year, visited over 80 cities, 80 different bars, and did pop-ups in each one to look at the waste that was being thrown out on a daily basis. And then we came back to Toronto, and we're looking to open a bar here, and we've now got we've turned Trash Tiki into part of the Trash Collective, which is going to be opening a bar here later this year.
So we kind of first got into this topic looking at food waste, really inspired by seeing what was happening in the kitchen environment and seeing how bartenders were lacking the resources to be able to follow that kind of ethos and that mentality. Bartenders are inherently maybe not as cost-minded when it comes to their raw produce because we work with better margins in a kitchen. But really what we sought to do with Trash Tiki was get people inspired and understand that this is everybody's problem. It's not just the chef's responsibilities, it's not just your wholesaler's responsibilities, but bartenders and restaurants in general have a huge role to play in reducing the food waste that exists around the world.
Oftentimes, drinks, if they're fresh, or if we're using that terminology around them, it means that they're using citrus in some way. Citrus obviously is grown in hot countries. It's using fossil fuels to get into somewhere, especially like Canada, where it's a cold climate place. So we wanted to connect them with where that fruit is coming from and how to treat it properly to show it the respect that it deserves. And by so what we essentially do is get bars to keep anything that they would be normally throwing out. And to be clear, they're not dumpster diving, but just keeping what normally would have been thrown away. And then we come up with different recipes so that they know they have the tools to be able to use those things that they already have in their bars. I think a lot of our recipes come from where we see flavor and how the best way to extract it is. Once you have a waste product in your bar, if you don't process it immediately to something that is shelf stable, you're going to lose it, and you're going to have something that's no longer usable. So a big thing that we've sort of been championing is how to get that into a shelf stable bottled product that we can put into cocktails. And we've really been championing different recipes that we put on our website as an open resource. It's trashtikisucks.com. One of the examples that we use a lot is avocado pits. So avocado, obviously, guacamole, avocado toast, all of those big kind of things that are done everywhere. The pit is normally just thrown out. Sometimes use it as a preservative. Sometimes when making guacamole is kind of keep it green. So it is still edible, but what we do is give it a little toast, take off that peel, and then chop it finely and give it another like nice warm toast so that it turns that kind of orangey color, and then soak it in sugar and water overnight. And what that once you strain the solids off, you're left with like a really nice toasted nutty syrup that can be used in place of like an orgeat for your Mai Tais or Cameron's Kicks or whatever it might be.
And we've picked up a lot of these recipes and techniques during our travel. The avocado pit orgeat came from chatting with friends in Mexico, and another Mexican product that we use a lot is tepache. And tepache in Mexico is something very ubiquitous. It's available on street corners, it's available everywhere, but it's a really simple anti-waste process where by taking the skins and pulp left over from pineapples when they're produced for juicing or anything like that, it's a very straightforward fermentation with cinnamon and clove and whatever your raw sugar is that you choose to use. And again, that's kind of ties back into how we talk about creating new flavors of something that people are already familiar with. It gives you a funky, effervescent kind of pineapple flavor that's not been seen in cocktails previously. Yeah, the challenges are really across the board because ultimately every aspect of a venue could reduce its environmental impact, whether it is choosing a better or more efficient energy source, whether it's ditching plastic straws, whether it's using our recipes. The constant challenge we're up against is that we're retrofitting everything to venues that already exist. And that is like getting everyone on board, because honestly, the way things are done now are simpler, and simpler is always easier. And so it's really been about getting everyone motivated to understand that there might be an extra step involved, but it will save you this much money and it'll save the planet this much carbon footprint. It really is all encompassing, from like the materials you use to build your bar top out of to the cleaning liquids. There isn't an aspect of a modern restaurant or bar that couldn't be more efficient. And so our challenge is not overloading people, I think, at times. Yeah.
I think it's something as simple as getting a bar to separate their garbage from their organics, from their recycling to their actual trash. But even something as simple as throwing a piece of plastic into the organics bin will contaminate the entire organics bin, and then if it gets thrown out in the main waste system, that whole thing has to be thrown in the trash. So getting people to understand like the tiniest little things that all contribute to the impact of a bar, it can be pretty massive.
Yeah, and then that expands out and extrapolates as well when you consider every venue is different because they use different produce, and then every city is different because they dispose of waste differently. And then you'll wind up going to some cities. We went to Detroit, Michigan, and the city currently doesn't have any waste disposal program in place whatsoever. And so every single bar is responsible for finding their own way of disposing of their rubbish. And so the ongoing challenge of that is that there is not a one-size-fits-all solution to this.
I think in terms of the next steps for bars and kind of looking at the future of what this is going to look like, 5 years down the road, we're kind of making these like little baby steps right now, and looking at food waste is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. Whereas it's going to be the government systems that we're enacting change as just like one avenue of it. There are still cities in the United States that don't have a government recycling programs, which is massive. And really getting, we're splitting our waste now in Toronto, so we've got organics and we've got recycling and then we've got trash. But a lot of people, because they still don't understand what goes into those different bins, there's still a lot of cross-contamination, so a lot of it's still going to the trash. So getting those systems in place and getting a greater level of like the public understanding of what those things mean is going to be a huge next step for it.
Whenever we talk about sustainability, we always mention is a guy called Douglas McMaster. He is a UK-based chef who owns a restaurant called Silo that, to our knowledge and our now rather extensive travel, is the only zero-waste restaurant in the world. Doug has really looked at the entire ecosystem of what a restaurant can be and managed to figure out a way to completely remove plastic, to have no byproducts going to landfill, and to be working with local producers using returnable containers wherever possible. He is quite literally writing a book that will be the blueprint for zero waste restaurants around the world. And he's also the chef for a restaurant called Cub in London that is also doing a hell of a lot of sustainable work within the restaurant world.
Another really great example of a bar that is just a bar is called Native in Singapore. And what they're doing is, in the setup of their bar, they looked at every single aspect that goes into serving a cocktail. They compost all of their food waste in the bar so that, and use the juice as like it's got a high acidity level. So they can actually use that as a sanitizer for the top of their bar, and they use it to make a hand soap in the washroom. And then they also weigh their actual trash, their plastic waste, and it is under 150 grams per night that they weigh at the end of the night before they throw it out, and it's kind of a team initiative to make sure that that's as low as possible, which is pretty amazing.
One of the key pieces of advice that we give to any restaurateur that reaches out and kind of wants to know what they can do to be more sustainable is look at your produce that's coming into your venue every day and think about how you can eradicate single-use ingredients. There's a lot of talk around single-use plastics, but we focus a lot on single-use ingredients because Food waste ultimately is a result of using something once and throwing it out. If you're able to find that second, third, fourth use for any product that you're bringing into your bar or restaurant, it is immediately getting everyone to reduce their consumption, which needs to be the primary goal of every operation. But it's also getting them to have, as you spoke about, a greater respect for your produce. Understand the resources that go into it. When you think that a single piece of citrus uses over 3 liters of water to be grown. A single almond is over 2 liters of water. And a lot of these products we're shipping from halfway around the world, squeezing it or processing it once and then just ditching it straight away. That is what's creating this deficit and this insane carbon impact on the environment around us.
I think the other side of looking at single-use ingredients is the cost. You've already got something in your bar that is being used for one ingredient. If you can get second or third uses, not only are you saving yourself from buying more, but you're saving something from going in the trash at the other side. So it really comes full circle. It's something that not only are we doing it for the environment, but we're doing it to save money in our bars at the end of the day.